Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Push Forward podcast. I had labeled this as Brother Talk, which is our weekly episode where my brother and I'm Jerome.
I'm Joe.
We go over life, our failures, our successes, and everything in between, trying to not only discuss those things but also have something to provide. So today's subject is about failure. More specifically, what failure provides both the good and the bad. Failure has an opportunity to teach us many different things, and we will be discussing multiple decisions from our life that have been difficult to deal with, but in the long run built more opportunities that were not originally there. A lot of times when we think of failure, it is seen as potentially something that promotes limitation or creates moments of why me, or in some cases, it can manifest overbearing negative emotions to an already difficult situation. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
So, to open up, if you want to go first, you can. Otherwise, I can. I pose the idea of what is the biggest hurdle that you have faced in your life?
Okay, so I would say the largest hurdle I faced in my life is the distractions of life, like the normal distractions, like comparing yourself to other people or just normal little things that happen in everyday life. So I notice a big problem I personally see with a lot of people I'm friends with or work with. And then also in my life, when I was in my teens and 20s and stuff, I know I'd always, I want that. Oh, I want that. Instead of actually looking at what do I really want. I was looking at people and thinking, man, since I'm not there, I'm not good enough. And that's a horrible way to live.
Yeah.
Because you can be totally happy and totally successful on $30,000. It's all about what you've put in your life that makes you happy. So for me, like, constantly comparing myself to where I want to be instead of just enjoying where I'm currently at is probably my biggest failure, because I don't have this and I don't have that and I don't have this, and so I'm sad because of that. That's a horrible way to live. You have so much, like, I got married, had kids in my early 20s, had every reason to be happy about everything in my life. And because I didn't have a house, or I didn't have a super nice car, or I didn't have, a good neighborhood I was in, or whatever it may be, I'd focus on the wrong thing and get lost in that, well, why this, why that? And you think about it, you take time to think about it, there's so many people who have so much less, like we did growing up, and we were still happy. And so getting caught up in that motion of, if I have this, I'll be happy, that's my biggest failure.
Right.
Because then you start comparing yourself to other people, and your ultimate happiness is finding out what you want and who you want to be inside. That's by far the most important thing.
Would you also say that you were spending more time thinking about what you don't have rather than what you do?
Absolutely.
And building from what you do have to build what you become?
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely agree with that statement. Instead of focusing on all the good things I had, I would definitely focus on all the things either negative things like I don't have or I wish I had, which is, I know I'm older now, and so I'm wiser, but it's just silly, because when you let all that go, the amount of peace that comes into your life is unbelievable, because you're just happy no matter where you're at, no matter what you have. And that's the one thing I'm grateful for, how we grew up, because we didn't have a lot. We found joy in what little we had.
Right.
So we didn't need all this stuff to be happy. And it's not the stuff that makes you happy. It's the path you put yourself on that makes you happy.
So then how would you say for someone that didn't grow up in the kind of lifestyle that we had, someone that was, say, complete family or grew up in a rich household, but when they step out on their own and they're not where they want to be, whether that's establishment or marital relationships, how would you say that they should approach that situation?
I would say find out what makes you happy. So even if it's just playing sports, reading books, being in groups, because some people are very social. As you know, I'm not a very social person.
Yeah.
But some people are very social. So if you are a very social person, go do activities or find a job or start a business where you're social. You know,
Right.
Find out what makes you tick. Don't worry about the money. You know, because in the end, money doesn't make you happy. It makes your life easier and it can bring happiness, but money doesn't make you happy. It really, you can have as much money in the world, but if you're spending every dime and you don't know how
Right.
and what's going on, you will be just as miserable as someone who has $10,000 and
Right.
doesn't know how they're going to get their next meal.
Right.
The money doesn't make a difference. It can, if you handle money well, it can have a positive impact. But if you make $1 million, you spend $990,000, you're just as broke.
Yeah.
It's just on a higher level.
And a higher percentage.
Yeah. So I mean, it's, you know, you got to find out what makes you happy and do whatever that one thing is, whether you're rich or poor.
I like to pose the idea of taking a personal inventory of who you are.
Yeah.
And assessing what kind of uses that has. Like, for example, I'm a huge fan of philosophy and sociology and stuff like that. I love doing that stuff. Well, how can I make that effective to other people? Well, philosophy for me, when I interact with other people, it places a certain value of life, because I understand that you have these philosophical situations of immoral situations. Are they moral situations or are they immoral situations? But when you're posing those ideas, you're thinking about the human being.
Yeah.
And I like posing those things. I like pushing on those things. Well, then what do you do with that? How do you take that and build it to overcome? I just like the idea of taking that little ball of you and expanding its possibilities. That's how I would kind of put it if I were to put it from what you were saying.
Yeah.
Just that little version of you and expanding it to, like, the world of open doors. There's so many, you just got to open them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
For me, though, I would say my biggest hurdle that I faced was going to college. And the main, it's not the college itself that was the problem. It was me in the college.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have a lot of debt. And I expect that because it costs a lot of money. But when I went to college, I had an original purpose to become a minister. I talked myself out of it. There were so many people that told me that I'm great with kids, I should be a teacher. An elementary teacher specifically. And I'm not opposed to that. But when I finally got into it and I was going through so many different emotional scenarios and situations, it's not something that I personally could handle. Partly because you're dealing with someone else's child and they raise it in a certain way, and there are some that will aggressively oppose the way that you live and the things that you value. And it's that, for me, not to mention the political stuff, but I don't want to get into the political stuff.
Yeah, I understand.
It just built this overbearing amount of things and complications that opposed everything that I am. And when I originally wanted to be a minister, and the way that college functions in comparison to how I learn is vastly different as well. Some of that is government regulation. Test taking, perfect example. It's a pump and dump. It's you fill your head up with a whole bunch of information to dump it out on the page and don't remember anything after that. I can't do that, partly because I can't do that well, I should say. Partly because I like to invest myself in information, and the programs and all the things that come with being an elementary teacher, or even just in college in general, is very counter ways of how I learn. Like, I'm one of those rare people that really enjoy doing papers, because I could personally invest what I think into that scenario and that situation. Like, I remember doing an MLA paper, which is a format in college that is taught. I did an MLA paper on how much I didn't like MLA.
Oh, that's funny.
And I cited my sources and why it's more useful to have like what was it? There's other versions where you can where you can note things on the sides or on the bottoms that are far more useful than the MLA format, but it is an educational criteria. It was like, for me in college, it was like having a redneck trying to learn how to use a computer. Like I'm talking old school redneck, the one that knows how to fix a car so far to the point that it might break next week, but they don't care. They're going to have a blast.
Right.
And you're going to ask them to sit in front of a computer when they want to be out and doing things. I would compare it to that.
Okay.
And when I got to the end of it, when I got past it, all of a sudden I was in this position of, what do I do now? Because I had no mental direction. And it created, I would say it created a more toxic mental situation for myself than any benefit that it was going to have.
Okay.
That's not to say that college is bad. There are some people who are built for it.
Yeah.
But I definitely wasn't, and it was definitely the biggest hurdle that I've faced personally.
Yeah, I know I didn't go to college. I'm not built for college. I'm just not. I'm a very physical move. I got to move all the time. So I was not built for college either. So.
Right. So to follow up on everything that we had discussed, through the hurdles that you were faced with, and I was faced, what are the most notable things that you personally learned from that you use to this day?
Oh, man. Okay, so the greatest hurdle for me, unfortunately, I know I just said money doesn't make you happy.
Right. It's money.
Was my money hurdle. And it's not to be rich hurdle. It was to control the amount of spending I did. So if I got paid on a Friday or on a Thursday $500, by Monday, 450 of it was gone. You can't live that way. I don't care who you are. I don't care how much you make. If you burn through your whole paycheck in a couple days, money is going to be a struggle for you. It finally took years and years of education from a financial point of view to realize you have to have a plan for your money. You do. And I know people don't like to hear that. But when you plan, okay, when I get my paycheck, I'm going to do this, this, and this with it, whatever it may be for you, it doesn't leave your bank account nearly as fast. I mean, you plan it. So I know people are going to have a hard time believing this, but the biggest thing that me and Kelly got right was getting our budget right for how much we spent at the grocery store. For 4 people, me and Kelly only spend $300 a month. And people will go, oh my gosh, are you kidding? I could spend that in 2 weeks. Yeah, well, that's the sacrifice me and Kelly needed to make, because we were spending tons of money on groceries. There was just no need, and we would always go out and buy stuff or always go out and do stuff, and we never had money. If something came up, oh no, we don't have money to fix it, or oh no, we can't do this, or if someone needs help, which that's for me is the thing that hurts more than anything, is I'm a very giving person. I like to help people. Well, when you only have $50 in the bank till next Friday, it's very hard to help someone else if they need help.
Right.
So for me, yes, it was finances. So as you know, Jerome, I started listening to a person called Dave Ramsey
Right.
years ago, and anyone who is struggling with their finances, I highly recommend Dave Ramsey's financial program. Um, and it took me and Kelly years to get it right. I mean, it's mainly my fault. I'm not the brightest person in our relationship. Kelly is the smart one, and she kept hammering home to me like, Joe, we really need to do this. We really, really need to do this because we are struggling. And I guess at that point in my life, I was like, I know better. Even though, I mean, Dave's wealthier and smarter and more giving and more loving than I was. I didn't want to listen. So, I mean, it's just plain simple. It was my fault. My wife just didn't give up. She's like, you know what, we need to do this. I finally sat down and I listened, and we changed. And ever since that day, I have so much more peace in my house. And like I said, it's not about the money. It's about the freedom of having a plan. So,
yeah,
that's what it was for me.
And for me, with my situation in college and just being confused as to where I was going to go, it kind of goes back to the idea that I posed earlier of assessing who I am and sitting down, like literally, when I got to that point where I was so lost, I literally sat down and wrote down all of my interests, all of my failures, all like mapped it, like it's like a brain map of just me over like 10 pages, trying to figure out what am I going to do next. And the short answer, like if I'm thinking financially, short answer is work. If I can work 60 hours in 5 days, I know I can budget with that appropriately, regardless if it's $10 or $20, because 60 hours is a lot of work, and I haven't always made the best decisions. Like I pay a lot of money for where I live. It's expensive, but I can still plan and budget. The hardship that I'm having right now, which I'm learning currently, is that I haven't been able to put aside as much as I would like to for situations in life that are complicated. For example, recently got into a car accident. There's a lot of things going on with that. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but if there's a situation where I can't afford something, right now I'm not properly equipped. But I know that, and I'm willing to admit that, and I'm thinking of plans and already prepping things where I know I can get through it. And if you would have met me like 10 years ago, I wouldn't have done any of that. And I would say that the struggles of going through college and not assessing who I am and if I fit in the college system, or even if I don't, how can I get through it? If I didn't go through those experiences, I wouldn't think that way. So I would say that has been the most notable thing that I've learned from the complications of those situations. So before we transition, though, we do have to take a quick break. We will be back in a moment. We'll see you in a few seconds. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And now we are transitioning onto a little bit more of what failure can produce. In a more specific way, I like using the idea of the light bulb. If you haven't heard the idea before, when they were making the light bulb, he kept trying and trying and trying and failing and failing and failing. Rather than giving up and stop trying, what he did was he looked at it as, that's just another way not to make a light bulb, until in the end, he finally achieved it. So, and I would say that kind of failure and that kind of rejection, that kind of things, yes, it's discouraging, but it gave him a direction. And rather than preventing what he was going to be ultimately, he just kept going until he became what he became, a inventor that we still use today. Like we have lights in every facet now, and it wouldn't have happened if he stopped. So I believe one of the reasons why we have become so engrossed in the emotions, though, when we fail, is because for one, no one is prepared for when it happens. In the moment, I don't think anyone's ready for it. Not to mention, when those moments do happen, a lot of people, in a lot of moments, there's very little direction to get past it. And it's kind of traumatizing. So in many cases, when this occurs, people will manifest the situation and in some cases create a victim mentality. Rather than think of the room with many doors, this is the one and go to the one that's already closed. We spend so much time banking on that one door and hoping that it opens and ignoring the ones that exist in the room. So essentially what that analogy is posing is that this is the only door I want to go through when there's 100 next to me that could potentially create a situation that I didn't know could happen. What would you say? I really love that mentality because it opens up the possibilities of this one's one failure or rejection or something like that. Go to the next one. And it's probably going to happen continuously until eventually you find a door that does open. How do we do that?
Yeah. I'm just going to expand on that actually a little bit. If you open a door and it's not what you wanted, definitely don't get discouraged. Go back to what he just said. So sometimes you think you have the answer for what you are going to take for steps, and it's not it. And there's so many successful people who have gone down that road also. One of my favorite stories is The Rock's story. He thought he was going to be a football player.
Yeah.
and I highly encourage you guys to listen to his story if you haven't heard him. Obviously, he's pretty famous, so I'm pretty sure you have. But, I mean, he tried football, and it failed for him. And then he went into wrestling, and boy, he destroyed it in wrestling. And then from there, he just moved on to Hollywood and destroyed it there. So you can walk through a door that you think is the right one, and literally 2 doors down is your answer. Or 10 doors down. Mm-hmm. And I think keeping an open mind to that this could not be the answer, but go for it anyway, because you don't know. Closing your mind to those options will get you stuck. It really, really will. And that's unfortunate because, failure, messing up, screwing up something, it really is an educator. You go through it, okay, this didn't work. Okay, you know that doesn't work now. Go to the next one. Try it, see what that one does. Whatever it could be something completely different. It could be just a small modification of what you did try. Right. That can be absolutely huge. I mean, I have so many things I can talk about on small decisions that could have equaled different results for me. So definitely just go.
So now let's transition that to a different level, the idea of parenting. Because now you're encompassing not just your decisions. Yeah. You're encompassing others' decisions. I will leave this to your expertise with the situation because I don't have children. Okay. What are some of the difficulties and struggles and failures that you've experienced as a parent to your child, whether it's the child making that decision that ultimately disappoints you or something that you did that you know is not healthy for the development or the growth or the love for not just the child, but the both of you?
So the first failure is kind of a funny one, and every parent's going to relate to this right away. The one where you think back to when you're a teenager and your parents told you, when you become a parent...
Yeah.
That is so freaking true. I can think back to so many times where Kelly's parents or our mom told us, when you have kids... Oh, that was my mom's favorite line. When you have kids... She has been right every time so far. Listening to experienced people when it comes to, if you're a young parent right now, get people around you, especially if you're a single parent. Get experienced parents. around you as much as you can because they know what they're talking about. They've lived it, they've experienced it, and becoming a parent is it's just hard. After that though, you're gonna fail as a parent. I'm sorry. There's no way. There's no way you cannot be a perfect parent. And I don't care if there's 2 of you, 3 of you, 1 of you. You're gonna fail. Raising kids is one of the hardest things you can do. It is also one of the most enjoying things, of course, without a doubt, because you get to mold and shape little ones into what they can become. And that is absolutely amazing, and it humbles you to the highest degree. You think you know so much, and you think this is going to work, and this is going to work. No,
Yeah.
it's not what you think. Kids challenge you, and but I have failed at trying to get through with my kids on how to teach them in so many different ways. And unfortunately, it's taken so many years, but I realize now, just sitting down and listening to my kids after all these years sometimes produces the greatest results. I'm not saying that they're going to be right, but for some reason, listening to my kids opens their mind to what I have to say next.
Yeah.
So, which is astounding, because I think as parents sometimes we just want to give orders. And that is absolutely necessary in a lot of situations. But there are times where I sit down and I listen with my wife to our kids, and you realize just the listening part opens their mind to when you give them directions. So sometimes they're still not going to like your directions.
Well, yeah.
And in the end, because you're the parent, you have to make the decision, regardless if it turns out good or bad. I think, honestly, parenting is the ultimate struggle of being successful and experiencing failure all the time.
Yeah. My favorite situation that you've had with that, and this is not like a really, really serious one, but it is to a certain extent, was when you punished Evan as a kid, and you took the door handle off the door because he's not supposed to go out of his room.
Oh my God.
And what did he do? What did he do to get out of his room with no door handle?
So our house is very old. We have a very old home. And so all the doors are original doors to the house. So they're like over 100 years old. So the mechanism for back in the day was very simple. The doorknob is just a little square peg that goes into the other side. And all you have to do is have something go in that square shape peg area and turn, and it opens. I took the doorknob off, which was a mistake.
And how old was he when he does this?
God, he's like 4 or 5 years old. Well, he has a set of tools, little kid tools that are plastic. He was smart enough at 4 years old to jam a plastic screwdriver in that little hole and turn it and pop the door right open. So, yeah, that was extremely frustrating. I can tell you as a parent, I know every parent's experienced this, is you think you got it right and your child shows you, nope, you didn't. So, but yeah, that literally did happen.
Yeah, but I like that one because it ultimately taught you how to, like, you changed your punishment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And make it more appropriate to that child in that situation. You had to.
Yeah.
Like the other one was when he would stop crying, he'd come out of a corner. Well, he would literally fight himself to stop crying so he can come out of the corner.
Yeah.
Even though he was supposed to be there for like 2 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, well, we when we did that to our kids, our daughter, we would give that punishment to her, and she would just sit there and cry and whine, and she'd be in the corner for 5-10 minutes sometimes. First, like, okay, I'm done, and then we'd let her out. So we always anticipated the same result with Evan. Big mistake.
Yeah.
There was times he'd like, wait, if I just stop crying right now, they'll let me out.
Yeah.
1 minute later, I'm done.
Yeah. He was 2 years old the first time I saw that.
Yeah, he figured out. I think he saw his big sister go through it. And was like, So he was always paying attention.
Right.
And he was like, wait a second. As soon as I'm done, I get out? Oh, sweet. That's a punishment. It's only going to be 2 minutes. So, yeah, we had to change that punishment.
Yeah.
We had to start taking electronics away. So.
Yeah, but I like using those situations because that's so, even if you don't have kids, you can recognize the benefits of it in life.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because if you take the word out, if you take the word child out of that situation and you put in opportunity, it changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you fail on an opportunity, you assess differently. How do you approach this? Because this opportunity might cry for 5-10 minutes, but this opportunity is only cry for 2. How do you adjust? I love, there's so many different things, small things like that I love learning from. But continuing with the parenting stuff, the other side of it is parental blame. Because there are moments, and I've seen you go through it, where parents feel like that they failed their kids at some point because the child will ultimately make decisions that are not what they want them to be. So how do you approach those situations, and what would you recommend that people do to not overwhelm themselves with blame on those situations?
Yeah, so this is a tough one as a parent, and I'm going to use our brother Abraham as an example, because we were so bad as teenagers, all 3 of us. Unfortunately, Abraham had gotten to a point where my mom couldn't take it anymore, or our mom couldn't take it anymore, and she had to send him to military school to correct the situation. I mean, there was just no option. She'd given up. Obviously, not every kid needs to go to military school.
Right.
You know. So, as a parent, from a parent's point of view, staying calm in the situation, no matter what is going on, is the most difficult thing, but it's also the most crucial thing. Because if your child is seeing you blow up and get frustrated, they will see that and take that in as this is okay to lose control in that moment. You can totally be assertive with your children and be in 100% calm state. Absolutely. You can tell them you need to go to your room and sit quietly in a very calm manner. And that is so effective. You would not believe how effective that is. But yeah, if you feel like you're failing as a parent, because I know we all go through this, make the best judgment you can for the moment and then just let it go. If you hold on to it, let's say you made a bad decision. If you hold on to that bad decision, it will eat you alive. And you're a parent. You don't got time for that. You don't have time for that. Look at it, what you did, and see what you did wrong that made the decision regrettable, and take what you can from it and make a better decision in the future. And it doesn't matter what the situation is. Just don't let it beat you up. Oh my gosh, because me and Kelly have definitely made those mistakes, and it can eat you alive as a parent, and then it's harder to make better decisions in the future. So don't do that.
Yeah, and I would follow that with the idea of, in those moments when you do that, it's affecting more than just yourself.
Oh yeah, 100%. Your kids feel it, they see it, and being a strong person in front of your kids is what can help teach them strength.
And I would go as far as to say is having them see strength in failure or in weak moments.
Oh, absolutely.
They pay attention to that. They learn from it.
They do. It may not seem like it. They're always listening. Yeah. They really are. Yeah. They're always listening. Don't assume they don't understand, and don't assume that they are not, because they will blow your mind out of nowhere.
Oh, man. So many moments of Ari imitating movies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
and no one would think, no one thinks about the fact that she remembers those situations, some inappropriate, but you don't think about it until you start seeing it happening.
Yeah.
And they're repeating it.
Well, the crazy part is, like, when people think kids don't listen, my daughter can literally sit down and watch a movie once and basically remember all the lines immediately. So, yeah, you just don't know. So, you gotta send good message, firm, but good messages with whatever you're doing with your children. So
Yeah. So the perspective that I'm trying to pose with this episode is, yeah, failure is going to happen and it's going to hurt. But don't let it control your decisions and don't let it control your life. There is much that can be learned and help understand further our opportunities in trying out things that might not work. And that's one big thing because, like we said, failure can create opportunities. Failure can create things that you have to try that's not guaranteed to work. But if you don't try, where are you at? You're stuck.
yeah,
That's what the idea of the door, the light bulb, and the parenting.
yeah.
If we don't move proactively on those things, at least mentally proactively, where are we? We could end up in a place of blame, of sulking, of hurt, and that's where the manifestation of pain comes from.
Yeah.
Is when we think we're stuck. Ultimately, though, trying these things and failing will create future opportunities that were not originally there or originally thought of. And I think that's a huge, huge thing to think about, because when you're thinking about yourself, when you're thinking about how stuck you are and how lost you are, what else are you thinking about?
Yeah.
Like, do you have any input on that?
No, not really. I mean, it's good not to get lost on yourself.
Right.
I would say that because it becomes a weight, and as a parent, I mean, obviously my views are shifted,
Right.
because I don't have time.
Right.
I don't have time to focus on myself. I do make small time to focus on myself, but it's small. So, failure is good, obviously not to an extreme, but just not carrying the weight of it around on you, it can eat you alive. And I'm going to tell a story, and it's hard. I don't talk about this very often, but
Before he goes into that story, we have to take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, and we left off with the story of failure that Joe was about to tell us.
all right. So, this story it's hard to tell, because I know I've said a few times in our podcast, money is not everything, without a doubt. But obviously, when you struggle financially for so many years, it's hard. It creates hardship on your family, creates hardship on you. And the reason why it hurts me so much is because there's so many people I want to help in life. Like, I love going to restaurants and tipping waiters and waitresses $20, $50, $100 just as surprises. That's the kind of person I am. I love to do that because I know how much struggle they're going through. You can't do that if you're broke. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean like you make $30,000. That's not that. You can be happy and have money on 30. It doesn't mean a millionaire. Like I said earlier, you can have $1 million, but if you spend 990,000 of it, you're still broke. So when I was 18, I kind of had a goal of what I wanted to. I've always been interested in finances. Always. I love learning about financial education and learning like what to do and how to do this and how to do that. It's fun for me. I don't know why. But when I turned 18, I started working at a place in Walworth, and I told myself, I'm going to get $10,000 worth of Amazon back when I was 18, which, as you know now, it's over 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Amazon, as everyone knows, maybe $1 at the time, And so I was going to have 10,000 shares 20 years ago. I told myself that was my goal. I want to own this. No guarantee. There is no guarantee Amazon was going to become what it was today. I had no idea that was going to happen. But I just told myself, what's the possibility, though? The possibility is the key here. I was young. I had no responsibilities, so $10,000 not a big deal because I just had me and my wife, and that was it. So we had no major bills, no car loans, no house payments. We just had to pay rent, and that was it. Obviously, as we know today, 20 years later, Amazon is worth a ton of money.
Right.
Because I did not step through that door of risk, I now live with $30 million I missed an opportunity. $30 million. I have to live with that every day. And it wasn't just that company. It was multiple companies. I had the opportunity with Apple. I had that opportunity with Tesla. I've had that opportunity with other companies too. And because of the fear of failing, I didn't take those chances. And I'm not saying go and do something crazy, with your money and put all your life savings and, go do something bold like that. I'm not saying do that, because like in my situation, I had no responsibilities. I just had rent. That was it. So I could build up $10,000 really easy. I was working a lot of hours. I think I made at the time like $30,000 or $40,000. So it was going to take me 2 years, basically, maybe 2.5 years to get that many shares of Amazon. And then obviously Tesla years later, I would have easily able to get thousands and thousands of shares and done the same thing. But because of fear of failure, I live with that every day. I mean, that's millions upon millions of dollars I missed out because of fear of failing. So it's a hard thing to live with. And it's like I said, it's not the money aspect, because if you're a messed up person who needs to fix himself, money doesn't fix the problem. It really does not, which is probably a good thing that I didn't have the money at the time. We probably just blown right through it. So, but if you are mentally strong and capable of taking those chances and taking those risks in a reasonable manner, I'm not saying dump all your money and all your savings and all that into something, but don't be afraid of taking that chance, even if it's on a small level, because if you don't, you might end up living with regret. And it's something I struggle with all the time because I know I should have taken the chance. I mean, if I lost $10,000 at 20 years old, I can swallow that. You know what I'm saying? Because I had no debt at the time. You can live with that. But now I'm missing $30 million.
Yeah.
And that stinks. So.
Well, and how has that formed your financial decisions as of today?
I am more bold financially, 100%. I do not I want to be clear, I do not spend, $1,500 on investments every month. I don't do that.
Right.
I take a small portion of my money every month, and I invest that properly for me, because everyone has different goals for investments. Like some money goes into my wife's business and some goes into investments I think are going to pan out. So, and I have been rewarded for that already. So, and so like if you're a football player, if you're a hockey player, or if you're a musician, or whatever you want to do, if you can just take small steps that aren't going to cost you either a lot of time or a lot of money, and it's something you're really passionate about, man, just take those small steps toward it. Because the last thing you want to do is be me, who I turned 40 this year.
Yeah.
And you look back to when you're 20 and you're like, man, I should have taken the chance. Don't do that. Take those small chances that aren't going to kill you for taking them. Take them, because you just don't want to live with that regret. Because of fear of failure, the failure could teach you so much if you fail.
Yeah, and I think the fear aspect of it is the huge part.
It
because
is.
regardless of where you're at in life, regardless of what you're doing, failure is going to happen.
100%. If you choose to do nothing, it is failure on its own.
Yep, and it's going to produce a lot more hazards than
Yeah.
being proactive.
Yeah.
So, yeah. To conclude this episode, like every episode that we're going to be doing, I want to provide something that's encouraging, something that's practical. So, we're going to start with the encouraging part. For someone who is in the middle of not knowing their future and what it's going to be, to the point of being bogged down, like my situation when I came out of college, or financial situations that you've been through in your past, raising a family, because anyone who's raising a family and they're the only breadwinner, and the expectation for them to provide for that family is a lot. How would you choose to encourage them?
Yeah, so I would encourage people so like if you have a lot on your plate right now, I would try to cut out as much as you can so you can focus on a few things and figure out what is the one thing or a few things I want to do. If you're a parent, obviously, if you're a single parent I'll focus on a single parent first. If you're a single parent, get good people around you to help find who you need to be. You know what I'm saying? Because, even if it's 1 or 5 children, it doesn't matter. If you're a single parent, it's hard. And doing it on your own, it's so tough. So if you can get a good support group around you, I would try to do that first so that you can discover who you want to be and become. Because here's the awesome part about that. Even if you are a single parent, you're struggling with those things, if you get a good support group around you to help you with raising your kids, and you discover who you get to become, your kids get to experience that with you.
Yep.
That is the most fun thing, because me and Kelly have grown so much over the last 4 years, financially, educationally, and mentally, in so many ways. And the kids have come along with our ride, and they're just like, oh my God, this is so cool. Seeing that light up their face is so rewarding. So on the single parent side, if you can get the support, and I know that is hard. That is hard, because sometimes you have judgment for why you single. Why'd you make all these decisions? Because Kelly has family members who had that struggle, so I know that is hard. But if you can get people who can support you and help you raise your family and be there as good friends, loyal friends, help you discover who you want to be, is the most rewarding things for your kids. You'll be blown away. They get to watch you blow up at whatever it is. They enjoy the ride. And that is so awesome. As for a mom and a dad, or a full family who's got 2 supporting characters, 2 supporting people, definitely sit down and have a conversation together, because if you have one person in the relationship going one way and another person going another way, it's very hard to get your goals aligned to support each other. So Kelly is working on so many things and I'm working on so many things. And if we don't sit down and discuss, hey, I'm doing this and I want to do this and I want to do this, and she doesn't let me know what she wants to do, it creates friction in the relationship. And that's the last thing you want, because doing those things you so want to do can be so tough all on its own.
Right.
Then you've got the complications of a relationship on top of it. Yeah, no, don't do that. So have those conversations as a couple and get that worked out. So.
And for me, on my side of it, I would, I go back to the idea where if you're someone who's alone, or someone that doesn't feel like they have a lot of resources, or you have friends, but you're someone who's stubborn, is like, I can handle this. Mm-hmm. If you're that kind of person, I highly, highly recommend you sit down and assess who you are, resources you have, and take a personal inventory of your life, just a one-day thing, and see where you can go with that. Mm-hmm. Because the first time I ever did a budget, I didn't realize how much my expenses were. So then that helped me assess how much I needed to make to cover those expenses. Right. It's simple stuff like that.
Would you say because your situation's much different than mine. So, would you say, on that perspective, would you need to do that once a year, once a month?
The personal inventory?
Personal inventory. Because life changes you, so.
Yeah, it depends. If it's a continuous bogging situation, you need to reevaluate your goals. You need to reevaluate what's going on, like what is potentially harming it, and figure out what that is and cut it out completely.
Okay.
Because one of the things that I personally did, I locked myself down before COVID ever locked anyone else down. And that's not healthy. Because then all of a sudden, when it comes to a situation where you need help, you don't know how to ask.
Yeah.
It creates a whole different trial of things, which is like the whole reason why we started this. Like for so many years, I mean, you've been supportive for all the content that I've done, for everything, but I never, in my wildest dreams, until you started talking to me about it, thought we were going to be doing a podcast together.
Yeah, and this is fun.
Yeah,
so.
once like, because there was a part of me that thought it was a little bit embarrassing if I was going to start doing stuff like this with friends and all kinds of different people. If they found out I was doing content online, I thought there was a certain level of embarrassment. It's the opposite. Even if someone disagrees, they still love me. And it's like, if you're someone that's in that position where you're trying to create content or do something like that, I would say, firstly, don't feel embarrassed. And secondly, don't think about what it's going to become as a business, much rather think about the process. And like you said, it's easy to show up here because we enjoy it. How are we going to make it a business or anything like that if we hate what we're doing?
Right.
So even though I don't even expect it becoming a business, but who knows?
Right.
But if we do this weekly, who knows where it's going to go?
Right.
And I like that idea.
Yeah.
So the next question and the final question, what is a simple task or mindset that someone can think of today to prepare for the inevitable moments of failure?
Oh, man. Okay, so unfortunately, I'm going to use myself as an example. I don't know why it is, but my biggest struggle in life is getting up in the morning and getting myself ready for the day. That is always my biggest struggle. So I'm just going to use me as an example. So what I do every morning now is when I wake up, I usually roll over to my phone and I will turn on the Bible app and I will listen to the word be spoken to me. I don't know why this helps, but I'll listen to a chapter of the Bible first. I guess it kind of just gets my mind going, and then once
imagine that,
yeah, maybe and then after that I'll get out of the bed and then I'll come downstairs, and if I'm hungry, I'll eat. If I'm not hungry, I immediately get on the treadmill, and that gets me moving for the day. So that has been a massive change for me. So whatever you're struggling with out there, try different things where you're in those areas you're struggling that maybe just get you moving. Being stagnant destroys. We all know that. So whatever it is that you want to fix in your life, I would definitely take steps however you feel is appropriate to cause movement.
Right. For me, I would say make habits. Simple ones. Simple habits that align with your goals. Like, I know a lot of people are doing New Year's resolutions, and it happens every January.
Yeah.
Let's say you're trying to become fit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I personally recommend that instead of going out and just blowing a bunch of money on a gym membership, what version of fit are you looking for? Are you looking to lose weight? You don't need weights for that. There's a lot of body workouts and all kinds of programs that you don't have to spend a dime to do that with.
Yeah.
So then the only money you have to spend is on food. Mm-hmm. Keep it simple.
Oh yeah, trust me.
Don't overcomplicate it, because then it becomes overbearing.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of just having simple simple, practical things that you do daily, because eventually it becomes a habit and you always do it.
Yeah.
Like for me, I made the goal to be present. It's simple. I don't do it every day, but I can tell you right now, in comparison to the last 8 years, I'm doing a lot better than what I have in the past 8.
Oh.
I'm reaching out more. I'm starting to get back into things more. And I know once I get into the swing of that, opportunities for things that I want to be and want to do are going to come with that. And that would be the one thing that I would say to prepare for, to build towards, because when the moment of failure does happen, whatever that may be, like let's say, just going back to the analogy of people wanting to eat healthy, there's going to be a day that you're going to have a cheat day. Oh well, like I always go to the mentality of, oh well, you failed today. You're going to let that happen tomorrow.
Right.
Keep it simple.
Right. Yeah, and that's a good point, because, like, no matter what your diet period is, or what your diet style is, or how you're doing, you're going to fail at some point.
Yeah.
Like, so as you know, Jerome, I'm an extreme vegetarian, and there are times when Kelly really wants to go out to eat. You know what I'm saying? And it's hard on our diet to go out to eat. I mean, we find solutions, of course, but yeah, I mean, we're in that motion right now of exercising and eating clean right now. And yeah, there's times she wants a candy bar. And I said and we always say that's okay. Next day we'll just eat clean. Next day, just keep moving forward. Don't get caught up on I need to do this just keep moving every day.
Right.
Keep focusing on eating clean the next day and moving the next day. If you make the mistake or if you fail, that's okay.
Yeah.
Just don't fail. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to fail once a day, or once here and once there. That's okay. Just don't get stuck there.
Yeah. Yep. I 100% agree. And that was a really good episode. Thank you for all that have chosen to listen. If you're on Spotify, I'm also on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, I'm also on Spotify. I would love to hear your comments. Feel free to interact and potentially end up on one of our future episodes. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day.